Hi, this is Pastor John Creighton and elect Lady Vestina Creighton of Christ-like Fellowship, bringing you another segment of our Getting Your House in Order. Tonight we will be discussing living wills do not resuscitate, better known as DNRs and power of attorneys. So once again, we're not authorities. We just want to give you some nuggets that will help you better plan for life, because it happens to everyone, and we just want to help you be prepared. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to elect lady.
And we just want to always, at the beginning of any videos, because we don't know if this will be the first video you see for new watchers or what have you. We just want to let you know that we're doing these series just to kind of give you guys some strategy guides because we want everybody to live the abundant life. And one of the first, this is like the series we're doing today is the second of our 4-book series or 4-guide series. And the first one that we did was enjoying the fruit of your marriage. And we certainly encourage you to go and check out that 9-part series where we talk about there are 2 different battles going on. And the first one that we did, enjoying the fruit of your spirit, fruit of your marriage, was about really that spiritual warfare that goes on, that you really got to do battle together to fight against the enemy, because the enemy is on assignment to kill, to steal, kill, and destroy. And so that's the spiritual battle. So we try to give you some nuggets and things you can do straight from the word itself and give you some practical ways to apply that word to your situation, because we want everyone to live an abundant life as a couple. And the second thing is there's a natural battle that goes on, and some people don't see it, but when you come together as a couple, you grow to becoming a couple. And there's some things that happen along the way that a lot of people aren't prepared for, because life happens to everyone. I mean, people get sick. People unfortunately die earlier than you think. There are a lot of things that happen, just day-to-day stuff that happens, and we put these things birthed out of our own experiences, things that we've experienced, things that we're experiencing, things that we've seen other folks experience. And we wanted to capture just some quick little guys, if nothing else, get the discussion started, because a lot of people don't talk about it. And then when it's here, you're kind of like, oh, now what do we do? So what we're trying to do is just pass this information along just to inspire you to get your house in order. So with that, this is like part 4 of this series that we're doing now. And we're certainly at the end of this video and probably floating across the video while we're talking on this segment, you'll see the previous videos. So we encourage you to go back and check those out. So as Pastor Hubby said, we're talking about these things. Living wills do not resuscitate, also known as DNR. You've probably heard that. If you've ever had any type of hospitalization or someone you know have gone there, these are some of the standard things they ask you now when you go into the hospital and ask you to put in place, because life happens. And then power of attorney. And all of these things, like living wills, these are some tough things, guys. And that's the reason right now, before you get into a crisis situation, you have to make these decisions. This is the time to do it when you're not under stress. You're not emotionally, up in arms or what have you. And that's what we want you guys to do, that we hope we inspire you to think about these things. Research it. Google is a wonderful tool, but we also encourage you, there are experts out there that are at your fingertips that will be more than happy to talk to you. Talk to your primary care physician, whoever you need to say, hey, what do we need to do? Because some of these things may not need to happen until it actually happens, but at least this is something you need to address. So you want to jump into some of the information we've contained in this particular booklet about this subject.
Like she said, it's always best to try to be prepared or informed about what you possibly need to do if something comes up. And most people that deal with people with chronic ailments and life-going issues already kind of have this stuff in place. But most people think they're healthy, nothing's ever going to go wrong. But all it takes is one day and one situation for everything to be changed. And like you say, these just typical things we don't think about or talk about.
Right.
But being sick and people even dying is a natural part of life.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, we don't talk about it or discuss it. But we want to inform you, because the Bible even said, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge, you know. So knowledge is power. Just being informed can really help you deal with a lot of life situations. And discussing living wills and DNRs and power of attorney, we said this can be a controversial topic. Some Christians even feel that communicating their wishes about whether to prolong using practices such as CPR is playing God. But please understand that is not this intent. The purpose of this information is to encourage you to think about what impact you will have on your loved ones if a decision needs to be made and they do not know what you will want them to do. So, and that's what these different things are, is you ever get in a position where you can't make an informed decision or communicate for yourself, so they have an idea about what to do, not only for them and not, putting you through any unnecessary things that's not going to help or prolong your life, and it's certainly going to impact the family and the loved ones that are left behind. So this is what it's all about, taking care of business and doing the best thing for your loved ones and those that will be left behind. So the first thing we come to is the living wills and the do not resuscitate, or known as the DNR, and I'll let my wife get into that.
Well, basically with the living will, it's just really about you making a decision on how you want your medical care to be administered. Like some people, don't want extraordinary means. They don't want to be put on life support systems for a long period of time. And these are different. Like I said, we're not experts by any means, so certainly we encourage you to do your research. But what we do want to tell you, these things that I know that when I've had to go, and it's been many years that I actually was hospitalized for, a procedure that I had done. And they asked me, and I went, it wasn't because I was sick or anything like that, but it's just something that I had to have done. And they asked me, do you have a living will? So oftentimes they will tell you, because you never know what's going to happen. Anytime you're getting ready to go in for a surgical procedure, anything, you don't know what's going to happen. And so what this does, this arms you and your family with information on, okay, if something were to happen, how would that person who is in that situation want their medical, how do they want to proceed? Do they want you to put me on life support, do whatever you need to do? Because some people have religious thoughts about how they want certain things to happen. They may not want the medical personnel to do certain things. And those things need to be outlined because there have been known cases, that there have been loved ones who've actually had an incident, went into a coma, and they were there for years because there was really nothing in place. And it's like, okay, so what do we do? So there was this battle, between, I think it was the family and the husband or whatever, because there was nothing written down or in place. One was saying, yes, pull the plug. Others was saying, don't. So these types of things you want to, at least while you're in health and in your right mind, really sit down and have those conversations. Either just write it down, be able to communicate that, because those are some tough decisions, guys. And the thing you don't want to happen is to be in a circumstance when you're faced with that challenge and you have no idea what that loved one would want. And so people think they do, and families have been destroyed because of these types of things. But if you have something while you're in health, if you have it written down, then you really can't. The family may have problems with that, but it's like, well, that was their wish.
That's it.
So, and it is a challenging, and I've experienced all of these things, having to put a living will in place, having to put do not resuscitate in place, and also having to get power of attorney because a loved one was unable or not physically able to handle their affairs. And these things, guys, I'm telling you, having gone through that when my father got sick, it is challenging. it is challenging, and you're already emotionally just spent, if you will. But these are things you have to get in place, and it just makes the one less thing that you really have to be stressed over, because it's already in place, or you know what to do, what has to be done. If you're not aware of these things and it hits you in your face in the midst of the emotional turmoil, it just adds to your level of angst, and it renders you sometimes ineffective because you're so overwhelmed with everything that needs to be done. And that's one of the main reasons why we're doing this, because even I had a amazing support system, and my mother passed early, and she passed suddenly, and that was the catalyst for my father to get his life in order. And so there were things he had put in place early on, so it helped us when that time came many years later. He had put things in place, so when he got ill, we knew what to do. And even in that, it still was a lot that we had to make sure. We need to have this paperwork and that paperwork, and make sure we dot that I and cross that T and all of that. And and guys, I'm telling you, it is overwhelming in the best circumstances. And when I say best circumstances, someone who had the forethought to put some things in place. And even with that, it was still a lot to have to deal with.
Amen. So also, along with the living wills, you got the DNR, which is the do not resuscitate, which, there's something you need to talk with your primary or your medical doctor to write that needs to be put forth to, if you're in a facility or somewhere, that's people looking out for you. Even if you're at home and the paramedics have to come to your house, if you got that in order, it instructs them not to perform CPR if you stop breathing or your heart stop. And some people won't, especially if they ones that have chronic health problems, and it's just a torment and an ongoing thing.
Yes.
They just don't even, they so far
just let me go.
Just let me go, because I'm just coming back to go through the same old thing.
And guys, this is the thing. Another thing is, pay attention to when your loved one speaks to you. A lot of times, we try to hold on because we don't want to let them go, but this is such a sensitive subject. It's just, and I can only go on my personal experience, is that my father was this big, strong, healthy man, and then when he got sick, sometimes you got to know who that person is. And he pretty much told us, don't have me hooked up to no machines. I don't want to live that. He was more about the quality of life. It's like when you get to a point where you can't do anything for yourself. Some people, and here's the thing, some people are okay with that. They have said, no, just do what you got. Hook me up, do whatever, because there's that chance I may come back. And you just got to know that if that is what they want for them, and if that's their wishes, then you try to grant them those wishes. But there are some people who don't want that. Oftentimes, family members get together and they make this decision to put that family member through this stuff, all of this, especially if they're a cancer patient. Cancer patients, a lot of times the treatment is worse than the disease itself. And they just get tired and they get weary and worn. And it's just like their quality of life, they have none. And some make the conscious decision to say, you know what? I don't want, let me live for as long as I can and not have to go through that. And so that's the reason it's very sensitive and it's very tough. But I encourage you to have those discussions because, you may not ever have to deal with it, but from what I've seen, I guess that we're in that age now where we're seeing a lot of, illness and people having to go to long-term care facilities. You have loved ones that, are dealing with Alzheimer's. That's another one. It's just a lot of things that people need to discuss, especially if it's like if you see it early on and you see that a loved one is having some type of illness that is getting progressively worse. Have the discussion, guys. Get your people in place, get things lined up to deal with it. It just makes things, and I hate to say the word, I'll just say easier or smoother, because there's nothing easy about it. There's nothing easy about it. And then the one other thing that I found out with the do not resuscitate, if you have a family member or loved one who is in like a primary facility, but then they have to go to kidney dialysis or they got to go to cancer treatment and all of that, those folks have to have, I think, separate documents at their facility too. So it's not like, okay, we got it in one place and then it's, it's like a blanket for everywhere. No, you have to have that established at whatever facility that they're getting treated at.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure those things are in place if you ever have to make that decision.
So absolutely. So a living will is almost a must,
Yeah.
And DNRs are pretty optional, so people choose to approach them. So even though both of them are necessary, the living will is more important than the DNR. So with that being said, as she just alluded to, that you need to notify all persons or institution that's going to be involved with the care of the individual, your loved one. And also with that being said, having someone in the family who you can trust to communicate your to the respective families if and when the time comes to make a decision with the DNR and implement it to living wills. And just be sure you update and distribute this information periodically as their health status change.
Right.
So you need to change all of that information so everybody's up to speed as the best as you can, because some things change faster than you can
they
keep
change
up
very
with.
quickly.
It can change overnight. You just don't know, depending on their situation, their ailments. Like you say, cancer is a bad thing, and you got the other thing where they're dealing with dialysis. And like I said, we just see a lot of people just get tired.
Yes,
and
seen that a lot.
We want the loved one to stay here. We be selfish sometimes without considering what they're having to go through just to exist. They're really not having a quality of life.
Absolutely.
So, and that's what quality of life is more important than quantity. So, and we got to understand that, like you said, it's not going to be easy, but you got to really be a spiritual and open-minded person to understand that person's point of view, or how would you want to proceed if that was you. So, so with that being said, we hope that you got some understanding out of that. And the last thing we want to approach is the power of attorney. So I turn that back over to you.
So it's like in the book, it says the power of attorney. In the event that you are unable to handle your medical and or business affairs, identify a person you trust who is responsible. And that's been a theme throughout all of this. You've got to really think about who's that person you can share this information, because at the end of the day, they're going to have to be all up in your business.
Yeah.
So it's definitely going to have to be someone you can trust, and then someone that you can trust to execute when things need to be done. Okay. Because it's tough. And I mean, just to get down to brass, to get down to the real nitty gritty, if you get to a point where they're like, it's between life and death, you'll be the person to be able to say, yes, pull the plug. That's a tough one, y'all. And I mean, that's the reason it's very important for you to really have a serious conversation with someone who you can trust, to be able to, and they're strong enough, because there are some people that wouldn't be able to do it, and you got to recognize that, and you have to respect it. Not everybody would be able to just say, yes, let's cease any further medical treatment, whatever that looks like. So, and like I said, guys, it's difficult for me to talk about, because it takes me back to, when my dad was sick, and there were, just the one thing I can say is that for me to see a loved one suffer, it's a I can't even put you feel helpless.
Yeah,
you feel helpless. You are helpless.
Yeah.
And it's a tough thing to watch, and you want to be there, and you want to do the best, because you almost have to get outside of yourself to be able to handle those. And you need to know whoever you put in charge of making those decisions, that they're able to mentally, emotionally be equipped to make hard decisions, is what I'm trying to get to. Because and then you need to know the capability of that person.
And not only do they have to deal with the situation itself, and 9 times out of 10 they're gonna have opposition from the family.
Yes.
Because it's always gonna be somebody saying no, 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 no.
Yeah.
But not knowing the depth of the situation, they just on the outside. Oh, I wouldn't want this. But if you got it in black, white, and that person in place, there's nothing they can do to go against it. And it's our responsibility to try to honor that person's wish, and they'll put you in place to do that.
Absolutely.
And you just got to be strong enough to stand up and say, this is the way they want it, and this is the way it's going to go forward.
And the other thing is, family members, if you learn that someone has been selected to be that go-to person, I beg of you, support that individual. Don't try to challenge them, because you got to remember that person has identified them to be the one to handle their situation. You may not like it, you may not understand it, but I beg of you to support it. Okay? Because it's challenging enough, because this is what we mean by life happens to everyone. And what we're trying to do is just get you to start having these difficult conversations before that time comes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it will come, like you said.
And it will come.
Have that primary person's name and that contact information. Also a secondary person, in case something happened with the first person. They could be out of town. You just never know when things happen. You always want to have somebody in place that can, go forward and be able to make some decisions in the absence of someone that needs. It's always going to be somebody that needs to make a decision.
Absolutely.
And so it just good practice to prepare for the life.
Yeah.
Some stuff you might pray and be thankful you never have to implement.
Yeah.
But it's good to have that, like you said, to make the transition a little bit smoother. Not that the situation will be easy, but it'll definitely help you navigate, and it'll eliminate a lot of confusion.
Absolutely.
And misunderstandings.
Hurt feelings, all this
with
other stuff.
Everybody showing up, want to make a decision and take over and all of that.
Yeah.
This will eliminate a lot of that. So they can be off in their own feelings or whatever, but when it come down to it, it's in black and white.
That's right.
There ain't nothing they can do about it. Just, like that prayer say, Lord, help us accept what we cannot change.
That's right, the serenity prayer.
Yeah, give us the courage to change the thing we can. Most of all, the wisdom to know the difference. So, like you say, try to be supportive for whoever's that's making the decision, and know it's not easy for them at all.
Right.
But they have been chosen. That person saw enough in them or something.
Trusted
them to make that decision. So try to help make it easier for them too. Don't add to their woes. Trust me, because they're going to have enough with these decisions on their hands.
And then also, what we've seen, and there have been several instances, what we've seen is that when you have siblings in a family, and there's, as our family, our parents get older, and they, have health concerns, and there may be one person who is their primary caregiver. If they're the ones that have decided that they'll take on that responsibility, support them. Even if there may not be some things in place, if that person is the one that's day-to-day in there dealing with the day-to-day operations of caring for that person, guys, I can't stress it enough. Don't give them grief. If anything, because you got to think about it. It's like caring for a child again. It's like caring for a child again. If they can't do things for themselves, they're dealing with that day to day. And maybe you come visit every now and again and spend a couple of hours here and there. And you thinking, okay, we visit every couple of months or once a year or whatever. But that person's there every day, all day. Just be respectful. You can share your thoughts, but then sometimes, maybe your opinion needs to be not shared. So don't be careful about judging. Try to have a conversation and understand that person's perspective. Give them support. If you have solutions, share solutions and make them viable solutions. And trust and believe, y'all, I'm going to tell you this. Having experienced this myself, when you have a loved one who needs 24-hour care, and you're still working, your spouse is still working, and they, maybe have some money set aside, that money will go very quickly if they need 24-hour care. Because oftentimes that's not covered in insurance, okay? Sometimes people have to do private pay. And even if you get the most economical caregivers, that's expensive, okay? So throwing money at it, you got to think about it. You're paying for people to come in addition to medication, in addition to all those things, guys, it can get very expensive. So these are just things that are reality, guys. And what we're just trying to say, that when these things come up, have some adult conversations. Try not to get too deep into your feelings, and try to look at things objectively. And it's very challenging because it is your loved one.
So with that being said, we thank you for sitting in on another segment of Get Your House in Order. And remember, life happens to everyone. So the question is, are you prepared?
And guys, don't forget to please like, share your comments, and then also make sure you go back and check out the other videos that we have. You'll see across the screen our website, ChristLikeFellowship.com. You can pick up this in a 6x6 paperback and an ebook. And then also consider subscribing to this channel. We would certainly appreciate it. Oh, guys, and another thing. We got another book that's coming out soon. For those that are in the ministry, Your Relationship versus the Call, that's coming out soon, guys. So anyway, so until next time.